Yeah. So, all the Yomim Tovim are meant to leave a mark, are meant to have an impact, a lasting impact on us. It's avada true about Shavuos, which is about Kabalas Hatorah. Kabbalah, taking upon ourselves, is all about how we go into the future. So I want to discuss something, an akuda, a point that we are meant to take along with us from Shavuos. In Orach Chaim, Siman Kuf Nun Hey, Sif Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch says, Achar sheyetze mi Beis HaKnesses, that after one leaves the Beis HaKnesses, Yelech leBeis HaMidrash. In those times, the Beis HaKnesses was dedicated only to Tefillah, and there was a Beis HaMidrash which was dedicated to learning Torah. So the Shulchan Aruch is saying, "Achar sheyetze mi Beis HaKnesses." This is after you daven Shachris and you leave the Beis HaKnesses. Yelech leBeis HaMidrash v'yikva eis lilmoid. You should have a designated time for learning. V'tzorech she'oisoi eis yeh kavua. That time should be a daily time that's designated for learning, no matter what. Af imhu savur shelo yavirenu. You should never move that time aside. Af imhu savur laharviach harbe. Even if he thinks he has a chance to make a lot of money, he should nevertheless keep to the time that he was koveya for learning. It's the Ramah, va'af mi she'eino yoidei alilmoid. Even somebody who doesn't know how to learn, yelech lebeis hamidrash, he should nevertheless go to the Beis Hamidrash. Uschar haliche beyodei. He'll have reward for the going. Oy yikva loy mokoim, or he should set aside a place. V'yilmoid ma'at b'mashi yoidea. He should learn a bit in what he does know. V'yachshoiv be'inyonav, he should think about his life. V'yachnes be'libo yiras shamayim. This is the end of the quote of the Ramah. Now, the source of what the Ramah is saying is in the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yoina, in the first parak in Brochus, Daf Dalid Amid Aleph, in the pages of the Rif, and it's on the Gemara, on Daf Zayin Amid Beis, that says, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, steht in the Gemara, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Kol HaKoivei HaMokoim L'Toirosoi. Somebody that sets a mokoim kavua for his Torah, oivov noiflim tachtav, his enemies will fall before him. In our Gemaras, it actually says kol hakoivei mokoim le tfilosoi. But the Girsa of the Rif, and so it is. So it's in the Shiltis. It's kol hakoivei mokoim le toirosoi. Oivov noiflim tachtav shenemar, a pasuk in Shmuel Beis, v'samti mokoim la'ami Yisrael. I will establish a place for my nation Yisrael. Unetativ, I will plant it. V'shochan tachtov v'lo yirgaz oid v'lo yosifu b'nei avlon la'anoisoi kasher b'rishoina. They'll no longer be bothered by b'nei avlo. And that's where we learn that kol hakoivei hamokoim l'toirosoi, because that's v'samti mokoim, kol hakoivei hamokoim l'toirosoi, oivov noiflim tachtov. Says the Rabbeinu Yoina Pirush, Zeh pasuk nemar al Beis Hamikdash. This is a pasuk is really talking about the Beis Hamikdash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu hoya mashre shchinos sham. The Shechina dwelled in the Beis Hamikdash, u'b'schusoi hoyu Yisrael yoshvim lavetach, v'loi hoyu mefachdim me'ha'oivim. And in that schus, Yidden were secure and they weren't afraid of their enemies. V'achshov she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayom. Now that we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, mekoim haTorah b'mkoimoi. A place of learning takes the place of the Beis Hamikdash. Kidamrina, as the Gemara says in Brochus Daf Ches Amud Aleph, miyoim shechorev Beis Hamikdash ein loy laKadosh Baruch Hu b'olamoi elo Dalid Amis Shel Halacha Bilvad. Ulefichach Yinotzel Mei Ha'oivim. Therefore, if he has a place for learning, the Shechina is shoyra over there, just like in the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore Yinotzel Mei Ha'oivim, he'll be saved from his enemies. And now says the Rabbeinu Yoine, Va'afilu Misha Eino Yoidea Elo Ma'at. Even somebody that only knows a bit of Torah. Yesh lo lekvoya ba'oisoi mokoim v'lilmoid b'mashe yoidea. He should learn at least what he knows, kadesha yizke lozeh, in order that he should merit this that we're being promised. V'yachshoiv b'inyonav v'yachnis b'libo yirashamayim. Now he is v'im eino yoidea klal. What about somebody that doesn't know anything about learning? Yesh lo leches lebotei hamidrashos shalomdim. He nevertheless should go to the botei midrashos where Torah is being learned. Uschar halicha biyodoi, and he'll be rewarded for the going. This is the Rabbeinu Yoine in Masechtas Brachos, and this is the source of the Ramah. Now, look on Daf Vav Amid Beis in Masechtas Brachos. There is a Gemara that says Agro de Pirka Rohato, which means the reward for the perik that the Chacham darshans, the reward for going there is the Rohato, is the running. So Rashi says, Iker Kibul Schar Habrios, Horotzim L'Shmoy HaDrosha. The Iker reward that people get, the people that run to hear the Drosha Mipi Chacham, who Schar HaMerutza is the reward for the running. Shaharei Rubam, Einam Mevinim, Lahamid Girse, V'loy mar shmua mipi chacham, v'loy mar shmua mipi rabban la'achar zman sheyikablu schar limud. Because most people don't really understand the drasha well enough that they should be able to repeat it later, and therefore their reward is not for the learning; it's for the running. No, so we already see this concept, but over here we're talking about somebody that doesn't have a full understanding of what the Chacham is darshaning. He doesn't have an understanding to the point that he should be able to repeat it, but it's not the pshat that he doesn't understand at all. What the Rabbeinu Yoine is saying is much more. He's saying that even somebody that doesn't know how to learn at all, he should go to the Beis HaMidrash and he'll have schar halicha. It's hard for us to understand. We understand that there's a reward also for the going when you're going somewhere, when you're going towards the kiyum of a mitzvah. But somebody that's going to the Beis HaMidrash and he doesn't have the ability to learn there at all, so why is schar halicha biyodei? What is that supposed to mean? I also want to say that in Yeridei Siman Reish Mem Vav Sif Aleph, the Mechaber says, somebody that can't learn because he doesn't have the brains, to learn at all. Or he's very busy. He should support other people that learn. Over there, the Ramah doesn't say, but that nevertheless you should go to the Beis HaMedrash and schar halicha b'yodei. He only makes this comment in Orach Chaim and not in Yeridei. So it would seem that this schar halicha is not shaykh to Hilchas Talmud Torah, which appears in Yeridei, and that's why it's here in Orach Chaim. So what is it about? If it's not about Talmud Torah, because obviously he doesn't know how to learn, so it's not shaykh to Talmud Torah. So what is it part of? What is it about? So the Magen Avram in Siman Samach Sif Cotton Beis says Issa bekavonos ubeksovim. The Haschirois Halolu, the Kavonas Harizal, this is Kisvei Harizal. The Haschirois Halolu, the Sheish Zechirois, that a Yid is meant to remember every day. Heim mitzvos asay. L'chein, kisheyoymar uvonu vocharta, in the bracha of Ava Rabbah, the Arizal says that all the Sheish Zechirois are alluded to in the bracha of Ava Rabbah, and he says like this: kisheyoymar uvonu vocharta, Yizkor Matan Torah, V'kei Ravtonu, Maimid Har Sinai, L'Shimcha Hagodol, Maimid Shimcha Hagodol, Maisa Amolek, She'ein Hashem Sholem, L'Hoides L'Cho. He says, Vaite, So you see that he has two mitzvahs of remembering with Matan Torah. In other words, with regards to Kabalas Hatorah, we have two mitzvahs of schira. One is the schira of Matan Torah, which is alluded to in Uvonu V'charta. And then we have the schira of Maimed Har Sinai, which is alluded to in V'kerav Tonu Malkeinu. Avada, we need to explain what these two things are. I mean, there's Matan Torah and there's Maimed Har Sinai. We also need to understand that he puts the Matan Torah before the Maimed Har Sinai, because the Kervonu Lefnei Har Sinai was before the Matan Torah, and over here we have the Matan Torah first, Uvonu V'charta, and then V'kerav Tonu, which is the Maimed Har Sinai. How is that? How's that? Now, you know, the Iker Zach, that there's a mitzvah to remember the Maimed Har Sinai. The Ramban says in Chumash, in Parshas V'eschanon, on the Posik, Rak hishomer lecho, ushmor nafshecha ma'oid, pen tishkach es advorim asher ro'u einecho, upen yosuru milvovcho kol yemei chayecha, v'oidatom levonecho, v'levnei vonecho yoim asher omadet to lefnei Hashem Elokecho b'chorev. So the Ramban says that Rashi says on Pen Tishkach Es Advorim, Rashi says that that's talking about forgetting Torah. Says the Ramban, ve'inenu nochain, that's not true. Einenu nochain klal. Aval hakosov hazel lefi daiti mitzvahs lo yisase his hir bo ma'oid, ki kashero ma shenizor b'chol ha-mitzvahs. V'nish marachukim v'amishpotim la'asoisom, chozar v'omar, Rak ani mazhircha ma'oid lihishomer v'lishmer atzmacha ma'oid lizkor me'ayin bo lecha mitzvahs. It's not enough that you should observe the mitzvahs. I'm telling you that you must remember where these mitzvahs came from. So it's not about forgetting Torah, it's about forgetting sheloi tishkach maimed har Sinai. Mikol advorim asher ro'u einecho shom, hakoilois v'alapidim, es kvoidoi ve'es godloi, udvorav asher shamato mitoich ha'eish, v'toidia kol hadvorim asher ro'u einecho b'maimed hanichbed ahu levonecho v'levnei vonecho ad oilo. Upiresh hatam, in other words, in the next pasuk, ki Hashem osa ha'maimed ahu k'dei shetilmedu liyira oisoi kol hayomim, v'ez b'neichem til ha'meidun l'doiros oilom, im kein, asu atem kocho sheloi tishkechu oisoi. Because there's a purpose for the Maimed Har Sinai, and therefore it needs to be remembered forever. So this zechira of remembering the Maimed Har Sinai, the koilos, the brokim, the lapidim, the Maimed Har Sinai, this is what the Arizal is telling us, is alluded to in the Kerav Tonu Malkein. Now in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, in the Ramban's commentary to the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvahs, in the Mitzvahs Lo Yisaseh Sheshachech on Harav Beis, after the Ramban says over there the same thing as he says in Chumash, he adds, V'al tite, don't make a mistake, mipnei dorshom beperikam de kiddushin, levanecha v'levnei vanecha, belimud haTorah levnei bonim. You might ask, the Gemara darshans v'hidatam levanecha v'levnei vanecha, to be telling us that one is mechuyev to teach Torah to his children and grandchildren. So we're talking about limud haTorah and not about the remembering of the Maimed Har Sinai. Says the Ramban, ki limud emunas haTorah hu halimud b'Torah, because the learning of emunas haTorah is the limud in Torah. Now, this lashon of the Ramban is very unclear, and what he's trying to say is not clear. But it would seem that what he's saying is that the mitzvah is really to teach your children and grandchildren about the Maimed Har Sinai. The Maimed Har Sinai should not be forgotten. But that can't be taught outside of Limud HaTorah because it would have no value if it wouldn't be coming through Limud HaTorah. So the way Emunas HaTorah can be taught, the way the Maimed Har Sinai could be transmitted from generation to generation is only through Limud HaTorah. But the Ramban is nevertheless saying that there's a chiyuv to remember the Maimed Har Sinai, but remembering the Maimed Har Sinai comes only together with Limud HaTorah. Now, the Arizal added that there's another chiyuv. There's another schira. There's a schira of Matan Torah. Where did the Arizal take that from? I mean, the Ramban went out of his way to prove that there's a mitzvah to remember the Maimed Har Sinai, and that's from these psukim. Pentishkach es advorim asher ro'u einecha, and the psukim are saying, as kvoidoi ve'es godloi dvorav shemati mitzrei cha'esh. The psukim describe the Maimed Har Sinai. But where did the Arizal get from that is a chiyuv zechiras Matan Torah? Maybe the Arizal learns that hadvorim asher ro'u einecha is really the divrei Torah, because Chazal tell us that by Matan Torah they were royin es hanishma, so they saw the words. So according to the Arizal, it could be that the dvorim asher ro'u einecha is Matan Torah, and the yoim asher amadet lefnei Hashem Elokecha b'chorev, that's the Maimed Har Sinai. And Lefizeh could be that the reason that he puts the Matan Torah before the Maimed Har Sinai, even though that's not the chronological order, it's because, just like the Ramban says, that you can't hold on to the Maimed Har Sinai unless you're holding on to it through Limud HaTorah. And therefore we mention first Matan Torah, and then through the Zechira of Matan Torah, we access also the Zechira of Maimed Har Sinai. Now, I think that when the Ramah brings the Rabbeinu Yoina, that even somebody that doesn't know how to learn should go to the Beis Medrash, and I'll be rewarded for the going. And he brings this in Orach Chaim Dafka, and not in Yeridea. This could be explained according to what we just said, because from the Ramban and from the Arizal, we see that the remembering of the Maimed Har Sinai and the remembering of Divrei Torah go hand in hand. Now, the root of this is really because the Gemara says in Brachos, Daf Chof, that the Takonas Ezra for a Bal Keri is Mechuyev Tvila. The Takona that Ezra was Masakin was also for Torah and also for Tvila. That in order to daven or to learn, he has to be toivel. But the Gemara only brings a source for Torah. The Gemara says, "K'da ashkecham b'Sinai," that Eden were told to be toivel before Matan Torah, and we bring the pasuk, "V'yidatam levanecha v'levnei vanecha yom asher amadet lefnei Hashem Elokecha b'chorev." Malahalon, just like over there by Kabalas Hatorah, it was be'ema, be'yira, be'reses, u'be'ziyah. Also, every time a Yid learns Torah, it should be be'ema, be'yira, be'reses, u'be'ziyah, and therefore, he's mechuyev to be toivel before he learns. But the Gemara brought no source for tefillah. Not clear. Where do we know tefillah from? The Rav Hai Goin and the Rif say that even though they were mavatal tefillas Ezra, that's only legabe Torah, but for tefillah, even today, tefillas Ezra is noiheg. So you see that in a sense, tefillah is even more chamor than Torah. But in the Gemara, we don't see what the source is b'chlal for tefillah. The source for Torah is from Matan Torah, but we don't see a source for tefillah. Since we say K'da ashkecham b'Sinai, as we found in Sinai that they had to be toivel before Matan Torah, so you see that when we were notified all the mitzvahs in Sinai, that was considered an act of limud Torah, and that's what was mechayiv the Tara. But it would seem that it's not because we were being mekayim the mitzvahs Talmud Torah, and the mitzvahs Talmud Torah requires tefillah, because the truth is, the mitzvahs Talmud Torah L'chayre should be no different than the mitzvah of lulav. I mean, the mitzvah of lulav doesn't require tefillah. Why should the mitzvah of Talmud Torah require tefillah? So we need to understand what is it about Talmud Torah that's mechayev tefillah. That means it could be that by the Maimed Har Sinai there was b'chlal no kiyum mitzvah of Talmud Torah yet because they weren't mechayev in mitzvahs yet. So it's the act of Talmud Torah, not the mitzvah. What is that? So in Parshas Shemos, it says, "V'zelecha ha'ois, ki anoichi shelachticha, b'hotziacha es ha'om hazeh miMitzrayim, tavdun es ha'olikim al ha'hor hazeh." So when you will take, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, when you will take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, you will serve es ha'olikim on this mountain, meaning at Har Sinai. So Rashi says, "Tavdun oisi al ha'hor." You will serve me on this mountain. Shetikablu haTorah olov. You will receive the Torah. You will take upon yourself the Torah on this mountain. So why is Kabalas HaTorah referred to as avodah, as a service? The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Mitzvah Say, says, "He shetzivonu la'ovdoi, ukvar nichbal zeh atzivui." It says, "La'ovdei b'chol levavchem." It says, "V'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem." There's several psukim that repeat this term, avodah. And this is the tzivui la'ovdei. And the Rambam says, "V'af al pi shezeh hatzivui hu gam kein mehatzivuyim hakoilelim." Even though this is a general tzivui, k'mo shebiyarnu b'shorish dalet. And therefore, it l'chayre should not be counted in the minyan ha-mitzvahs because we don't count tzivuyim koilelim. But hine yesh bo yichud echad shehu tzivui l'tfilah. It is a specific mitzvah in terms of tefillah. U'tzivui l'tfilah v'lo shesifri u'la'ovdei zu tefillah. V'amru gam kein u'la'ovdei zu talmud. So there are two things that are specifically included in the term avodah: tefillah and Talmud. U'b'mishnosai shel Rabbi Eliezer v'noi shel Rabbi Yochanan Aglili amru minayin le'iket tefillah mitzvah. From where do we know that tefillah is a mitzvah? Mehoche es Hashem Elokecha tira v'oisoi sa'avoid v'amru. Chazal also say avdehu b'toirasoi. Serve him with his Torah, meaning limud ha-Torah, v'avdehu b'mikdoshay, and serve him in the mikdosh. Kaloymar, laleches sham lehispalel boy. What's the mikdosh? The mikdosh is about laleches sham lehispalel boy ukenegdoi. The tefillah is keneged ha-mikdosh, k'may shabir shleimer. Now, in the Sifri, it's like it says in la'ovdei b'chol avavchem, la'ovdei zeh Talmud Torah. Maybe it means avodas hakorbanos. Anyway, the Sifri proves that it means limud haTorah. So we see that both tefillah and limud haTorah are both considered avodah. La'ovdoi zu tefillah, la'ovdoi zeh Talmud. Avdehu b'toirasoi, avdehu b'mikdashoi. Now, since the Maimed Har Sinai is considered Talmud Torah, learning of Torah, kida ashkecham b'Sinai, mala'alon afka. So, Kabalas HaTorah is considered Tavdun Eso Elokim, because there's a la'ovdoi b'toirasoi. Limud HaTorah is considered avodah, and that's the Tavdun Eso Elokim al ha'hor hazeh. And Memela, it would seem that the mechayev of the Torah, what necessitated Torah in Sinai, wasn't the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but the dimension of avodah that there is in Talmud Torah. And since it was Tavdun es Elokim al ha'hor hazeh, they were mechuyev tefillah. And Memela, you understand, this is also the source for the fact that tefillah needs tefillah, because tefillah is avodah, just like Talmud Torah is avodah. So if we understand that the mechayev of the Torah wasn't the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but it was the act of Talmud Torah as an act of avodah, it includes also tefillah. Now, when the Rabbeinu Yonis says that a place that's kavua for Talmud Torah is a place of Ashuras Hashchina, it's based on the Gemara that Mishechorev Beis Hamikdash Ein Lo LaKadosh Baruch Hu Boi Lomoy Ela Daled Amis Shel HaLocha Bilvad. So what does that mean? That the Avdehu B'Toirosai takes the place of the Avdehu B'Mikdoshai. In the Mikdash we had Avodas HaKarbonis, and the Avdehu B'Toirosai takes that place. And you know that the Maharal is marich in the Siv Avodah Perek, that the whole idea of Schar Psias is only Shaykh and Halicha L'Beis HaKnesses and not another mitzvahs. But over here we find it in terms of Halicha L'Beis HaMidrash, because just like the Halicha L'Beis HaKnesses, as the Maharal over there explains at length, is really moving towards the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it's a journey of Dveikus. So also the going towards the Beis HaMidrash is a journey of Dveikus, and therefore there's Schar HaHalicha. Now, so Mamela, you understand, that's why even somebody who's Eino Yodea Lulmoid, but it's not the pshat, probably every day he should be hopeful, and he should hope that he'll understand something today, even though yesterday and the day before he understood nothing. So he's engaged in that journey likrasa like him, and he's moving towards the Beis HaMidrash. And Mamela, learning Torah is not just an intellectual pursuit, and it's not just engaging intellectually, but it's really an emotional and spiritual journey. That's the Yelech LeBeis HaKnesses and the Yelech LeBeis HaMidrash. And Mamela, in terms of the Halicha, I mean, we're all shaykh to. And that's really what we say, Ilu Kervonu, Lifnei Har Sinai, V'loi Nosan Lonu Es HaTorah, Dayenu, Kervonu Lifnei Har Sinai, V'loi Nosan Lonu Es HaTorah. So what would we have? We would have that Halicha Likraso Elokim, the Yelech LeBeis HaMidrash, Afal Pisheinu Yodea Lilmoid. And Mamela, the same thing happens. Amol, you try to figure out what Tosfos is saying, and you can't figure it out. So that's really Kervonu Lefnei Har Sinai. You came close, but Lo Nosan Lanu Es HaTorah, you don't really understand what it says. But it's Schar Halicha B'Yodei. In any case, the Eibush is the Halfim. We should all have a Freilich and Yom Tov, and we should be Mekabel the Torah, Lilmoid Ulalamed.